So talk about the Bible study, if you would, how that, or the prayer group, how that got started.
It was started when I came. You were leading it when I got
Was
there.
I?
Over at Palos Heights.
Yeah, well, what was remarkable about it was that we weren't real close to each other geographically, and so we didn't feel in competition.
Yeah.
So everybody was pulling for everybody's ministry. It was
Yeah.
one of the beautiful times we had. And I've hardly seen you since those days.
Yes, right.
How many years has it been since the two of you saw
Well,
each other?
you left in
I left
about
in '64.
You left in
to go to
'64.
the
I left in
seminary.
'67.
Yeah.
No. I left Chicago in '67 and went to Camp Manitowoc in
Yeah.
'67.
And then when did you come out this way?
'71.
Yeah.
71
I
came
don't
out
think
to,
I've seen you since you went out here.
Yeah.
you came out to plant
I
Emmanuel in
I
71?
remember that you had a marvelous gift when we'd gather for prayer. We'd eat a donut and we'd have coffee. You could remember what everybody talked about, and when you concluded with prayer, you'd include each one, and you'd remember that uphold their need before the Lord. That was a wonderful thing.
It was a beautiful group. I just remember that just with joy. It was just a great time.
Yeah, and I want to say to you as the next generation that I really believe your prayers in that prayer group planted in the soil of God's kingdom are bearing fruit, and we're benefiting from that. So thank you.
And I'm so delighted that he's in prayer. I'm in about 4 or 5 prayer meetings every week, and we're praying some great big prayers. The greatest spiritual awakening the USA has ever had, the mightiest gathering of new believers that have ever come to Christ. And that in connection with that, the fear of God coming upon the halls of political power, the halls of academia where there's so much arrogant unbelief, the halls of entertainment where looked on as the world's Satan because of our pornography and filth, and that there'll be transformation there, and in Wall Street, so that with all the greed there'll be amazing generosity.
The seven mountains kind of,
Yeah, that's my first one. And the second is about Psalm 22:27. All the ends of the earth will remember and turn to the Lord, and all the families of the nations will worship before him. That hasn't happened yet, but that's the promise. And I read just today, coming out here on the flight, in Matthew 24:14. All the ends of the earth. This gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the nations,
Amen.
in all the kingdoms. And I'm praying for that, a mighty ingatherings. Psalm 67. That your way may be known upon earth, your saving power among all nations. Let the peoples praise you. How many?
Let all the peoples
praise you.
Yes.
And the Old Testament is full of that.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet. So God's have to send out a great army of new laborers into the harvest. Have to do marvelous things. And, we're almost near the end of Bible translation. We're almost going to have all the dialects by 2025. They expect that the last of the languages known will be at least in process.
Wow.
And now we're looking forward to a great time in West Michigan. The Palaus are coming in September in a city fest, and people all over West Michigan are praying much. And I'm remembering how when Bill Bright came to Holland 50 years ago, I had just come from the seminary. I had come from Chicago.
Yeah.
He said that he believed that West Michigan was the most significant base on the planet for evangelizing the world. Now, I had never heard anything like that. I didn't know anything about Michigan. I knew they had a great football team. They won 49-0 in the Rose Bowl. That's all I knew about Michigan. But so I've been praying into that for 50 years, and I think there's kind of an upwelling
Seems
of
to be.
vision and passion and prayer.
And what was the third, Dad? You said reaching the nations.
Is that God, by his sovereign power, will restrain the murderous forces in the world. That Jesus is Lord of everything. He broke the devil's power, and he needs to restrain Islamic terrorism, restrain the ugly terrorism of Russia, restrain the malevolence of Iran and their hatreds, and break down that tyrannical government. And he needs to restrain the madness and menace of North Korea. They don't do something horrendous that would...
To talk about how this, we're sitting here at Paramount, and can you share how God called you here?
Yeah, it was the last place I was ever going to go was to Paramount, California.
Why not?
Because it was another dying Dutch immigrant church. And many
And
people,
you'd been in some others?
yes, and many spoke with Dutch brogue, yeah, well, I tell you what it is, you know. And so I just saw it as presiding over a dying empire. Like over half the church had moved out, the Dutchmen got taxed out, and Dutch dairymen, and so it was dying. And they kept calling me and saying that they felt I was the man to lead the church, and I kept
What were you doing at the time that made them
I was
think
at
that?
Camp Manitowoc.
Oh, that's right. You
Yeah.
were doing some good things there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was having a good time there. But anyhow, they finally extended the call, and I was so angry. I hung up the phone and I said to my wife, "Can't those darn Dutchmen understand English?" And what don't they understand? The end of the O, you know. Anyhow, they called me after 2 weeks. I was just going to write a letter saying after due consideration, thanks but no thanks. And they called me and said, we believe you're the man. We believe God wants you here, and we're going to have a prayer vigil tonight from 6 o'clock until 12 o'clock.
Wow.
And praying that you'll hear the call. So I hung up the phone, and I said to Shirley, Darwin was wrong. We did not evolve from the monkey. I evolved from the mule. So I said, I'm going to the chapel, and I'm going to pray. And I'm going to ask God for guidance, because I haven't been praying about this at all. I went there and prayed for a while, and then a strange mystical thing happened. I had equilibrium when I faced west. When I faced any other way, it was like coming off the boat. It was like this. This went on for 2 days.
God's drawing.
Yeah, at the end of 2 days, I said, I got the message. So I called up and said I was coming, and the district equilibrium left. And I've been here ever since, and I've had many chances to leave, but I believe God called me here.
How
So
did the
that's-
vision begin to form of what could happen here?
Slowly, I began to realize, having served the churches in Chicago, that all churches in the city will die. Because they'll die because they only serve their people.
Right.
And God showed me that the church has to be a mission outpost. And you, as a church, as the people come in, the church has to see it as a gift of God and a chance to minister to these different tribes and tongues. So I said to them, I will come only under one condition: if you will declare this church to be a mission outpost. Oh, yeah, they do that. I said, don't say it so fast. Because that's
They didn't realize what they were talking about.
Anyhow, the long and the short of it was, they accepted it, and when I got here after about 6 months to a year, they began to say they didn't like this. Why aren't we getting the Dutch boys and girls? Why are we bringing in these other people? And I had to say that the Dutch boys and girls are all gone, and these people are here. So anyhow, it was a challenge. And I began to see that the church had to be a church with a healing heart. It had to minister to the battered, the bruised, the broken. And we couldn't decide exactly how to do anything except to build the bridge while we walked on it. And so we have to keep moving and keep trying and keep moving. Anyhow, the long and the short of it is that I began to see that nothing would happen here because there was power blocks until everybody realized the church belonged to Jesus Christ, not to them, not to them.
Amen.
So I made a law. Every meeting has to be a prayer meeting. Every meeting. Going to have a youth meeting, make it a prayer meeting. Then you talk about what you're going to do. So when it came to consistory, I said we'll begin with prayer, and then we'll get on to the budget. And they said, no, we came here for the business of the church. I said, well, the business of the church is to pray.
Amen.
So I said, we'll begin. So I began to pray, and nobody else prayed. I prayed again, nobody else prayed. I prayed again, nobody else prayed. They went on the meeting. Slowly they began to come around. what was interesting is they all wanted to have the agenda before the meeting because they wanted to have a meeting before the meeting to decide what would happen, what wouldn't happen. And I said, no, I won't send out an agenda. I'll give you a promise. We'll never ram anything down your throat. What we'll do is we'll pray about it, we'll discuss it, we'll meet every 2 weeks instead of every month. And every 2 weeks, we'll discuss it.
How big a group now are you talking about?
12, 15 people. And unless we can agree that God's in this thing, we're not going to do it.
There's wisdom in that.
They accuse me of manipulation and so forth, all that stuff, because it began to happen. They began to see it's not my church, it's God's church.
Praise God.
And we asked always 2 questions. Where have you seen God at work in the church? Where do you need to see him work?
Yep.
And those 2 questions guided what we did. So that as they began to pray about that, they began to change, and many of them came and they said, well, why aren't we fighting? Why are things just happening? Well, I said, it's God's church, not ours, and we're here to be part of him. We're really missionaries in the mission outpost. So gradually they caught on to that.
Praise
and
God.
Slowly on, things began to change. See?